opinions and views expressed in the following program are those of the speakers and the host, and do not necessarily reflect those of Yoakley Scott Corporation and your sports network.
Yeah, I've been closer to Jesus before, so can you help me out? Oh, can you help me out? Am I on my own? Am I on my own? Or can you help me out? Am I on my own? Am I on my own? Or can you help me out? Can you help me out? I've been scared to look in my soul. I've been afraid I would follow the road. Yeah, afraid of the things I've been told.
Hello, everybody. Welcome inside a Thursday episode of Running Point on ysnlive.com. As always, it is brought to you by Greenwood Chevrolet in Austin Town. I'm going to do what I always do and put their logo in the top right corner so you know where to go if you're in the market for a new or used vehicle. It is Greenwood Chevrolet. They go the extra mile for you. We try to do the same here on this show and at YSN every single day. Got a big show for you today as we're going to have, of course, the Class B recap from last night. We're going to talk about the All-Star game that happened last night at YSU. YSN Softball All-Star game was a great time. We'll talk about that. But we also have Tim McWilson coming on the show at 1:15 to talk about the Steel Valley Youth Football Camp, the second annual camp being hosted by Austintown Fitch on Saturday, July 8th. So we're going to talk to him about why that's so important and kind of what's been the driving force of that for last year and this year and what his goals are to continue it. This is obviously just the second annual camp, so I'm sure he has big plans for it in the future. Can't wait to talk to him about that. But first, let's dive into our Class B recap. We had 18U in action last night at Bob Scene Park, and here's how it went down with 5 games on the slate. First, Dura Edge versus Ballistic. Close one, but Ballistic gets the win 4-3. And as we look at the box score, we can see that it was 2-2 after 4 as both teams scored 2 in the fourth, and then Dura Edge took a 3-2 lead. But hey, in walk-off fashion, Ballistic scores 2 in the 7th to win it 4-3 with 7 hits on 4 runs and 2 errors, 10 hits, 3 runs, and 1 error for Dura Edge. Let's look at the Ballistic batting order and see who really stepped up big for their offense. And look at that, RBIs across the board. Walks across the board, I should say. They drew 7 walks. 2 RBIs, 1 from Gabe Rusnak, and he's gathered a lot of them this year. And then 1 as well from Brady Herman, who went 1 for 3 with the walk and a run scored. Pitching was pretty solid for Ballistic as well, as Dylan McElhinney went 7 innings, gave up just 1 earned run, and struck out 2. He used a complete game and does give up 10 hits, but only 1 earned run, so he did a really good job pitching with traffic on the base pass for Dura Edge. They had 1 RBI on the day, and that's it. And it came from a 3-for-4 day from Blake Jeffries. Let's go into the next game on the slate. And we see that the Prospects took on the Avalanche, and it was the Avalanche getting the 6-4 win last night. 2 runs in the third, 1 run in the fourth, and then 4 runs by the Prospects in the fifth. 3 runs in the second. I missed that one for the Avalanche. So that's all the scoring there. And the Avalanche were led by 2 RBIs from Jake Strausser on a 1-for-1 day with a walk. Also 2 RBIs from Santino Piccinelli, who went 2 for 3 with that run scored and a pair of RBI. They also had an RBI on a multiple hit day from Bennett Hain, 2 for 3 with a run scored and the ribby. Michael Ehrman got the win on the mound. He went 4 innings, gave up 5 innings, gave up 4 earned runs, and struck out 6 on the day. He picks up the win. Prospects had a pretty good offensive output. 2 RBIs from Gino Lazzari. He went 2 for 3 on the day. He's been having a really good summer in Class B ball. Robert Gamino had a 1 for 4 day with an RBI, and then an RBI as well from Jake Carfangia, who drew a walk and had the stake as well. So Avalanche beats Prospects 6-4. Those were the 2 early games, and then we had some nightcaps here. Whiting being able to take on Nightline. It was Nightline pitching a shutout, 3-0. They get the victory. Not a lot of offense in this one, but Nightline got enough. 1 RBI from Ty Eberhardt, who went 1 for 2 on the day. That's the only RBI they had. Multiple hit day, though, for Chance Lasco from Struthers. He went 2 for 3 with a run scored. And then Andrew Brown from Lakeview also scored a run on a 1 for 3 day. But the pitching for Nightline by Ronnie Harper was the big story. 7 innings pitched, no earned runs, just 4 hits, 5 strikeouts. We go to Whiting. They didn't have much of offense to speak of, but they did have a multiple hit day for Ben Miller, who went 2 for 3. It's a big win for Nightline, as Whiting was right there in the top of the top half of the standings. And Nightline shuts them out last night and gets a big win in 18U. We move on to a big score from Creekside Fitness as they win Blackjack 21-2 over Eagleware. So a lot of offense to go through for sure for this one. Creekside Fitness hits, let's see, 4 RBI day. That's a big number that pops out from Jake Patterson. 3 for 4 day for him, 1 walk, 1 run scored. Let's see, he had 2 RBIs from Ray Altemeyer, who went 1 for 3 with 3 runs scored, 2 walks as well. 2 RBI day from Peyton Zupko, who went 1 for 3 with 2 runs scored. They also had a 3 RBI day from Braden Ziegler. He went 2 for 3 with 2 runs scored, a walk, and 3 RBI. He had an RBI apiece from both Mitch Garvin and Owen Mandler. Had an RBI as well from Braden D'Angelo. And then an RBI on a 1 for 3 day from Tyler McEwen. We go down to their pitching, and 3 pitchers really tag team this one in a 5-inning win for Creekside. You had Mitch Garvin, who gets the win, 1 1/3, gave up 2 earned runs on 2 hits, struck out a pair. Jason Nutridge went 2 innings, gave up no earned runs, no hits, struck out 5, walked none. So a really good 2 innings for him. And then McEwen went 1 2/3 innings, gave up no runs on 1 hit, struck out 3. So pitching was good all around for Creekside as they blast their way to a 21-2 victory over Eagleware. Last but not least, Athletics gave the Astro Falcons a heck of a fight, but in the end, the Falcons pitching once again too much as they win 3-1. The offense for the Astro Falcons, just 1 RBI, and it came from Ben Kern. He has an 0 for 2 day. He drew 2 walks, though, and got the RBI. Multiple hit day for John Chalice. He also scored a run. Also scoring runs for Astro Falcons was Justin Weaver and AJ Capizzi. But the pitching, like I said, was the main storyline as Jane Rischel went 7 innings, gave up the 1 run on 4 hits, struck out 8, and then Ben Kerr came on, got the win. 2 innings pitched, 1 hit, no earned runs. He struck out 3 as this game went into 9 innings, and Astro Falcons win it with 2 runs in the top of the 9th inning to beat the Athletics, who had a monstrous upset bid going, just could not finish it. Astro wins 3-1. That would have been 2 losses in the last 3 games for the Astro Falcons if they were unable to pull that off. We'll go into the standings and give a quick look. You saw that Nightline got the win over Whiting, which sneaks them up a little bit. But they're still 2 games back of Whiting. Whiting 6 games back of the Astro Falcons, who are 20-1. 14-7 for Whiting, and then you have 12-9 for Nightline, Avalanche 11-10, Athletics 11-10, Ballistic 11-10, You have Creekside Fitness, who had that big win over Eagleware 9-11. You have Prospects at 9-12. You have Dura Edge at 5-15, and then last but not least, Eagleware at 2-19 to round out the standings. So once again, still a lot of congestion in the middle of those standings, and you're going to see a lot of heavily contended games in the next few days as we range towards the end of the season and go into playoff time. Talking about the next time you will see these teams on the field, it will be tonight, as there are 3 games in action. I believe they're makeup games tonight at Scene Park. Eagleware will take on Nightline at 10 a.m., which is actually already happened, I should say. Creekside Fitness will take on Athletics at 3, and then at 5:30, Ballistic will take on Whiting, and then they'll be back in action for 7 games on Friday, and then they'll have 1 on Saturday and 4 on Tuesday to round out the regular season before we head into playoffs for 18U. Tonight, though, we have those 3 games from 18U Class B, but we also have a bunch of games from Scene Park tonight. I want to go into the schedule, as we have a total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 games on the network from Scene Park. And Eric Hughes will be on the call on Scene 1. Matt Marr will have Scene 2. Mike McKenzie will have Scene 3. Dom O'Brien will be there at 3 o'clock on Scene 1. You'll have Dom there at 5:30 on Scene 1 as well. Noah Ricks will be down there. Michael Janaki will be down there. It's going to be a party at Scene Park. Well, a bunch of our announcers are there. Like I said, we have 15 games on the network down there, so it should be a really, really fun time down at Bob's Scene Park tonight, with a lot of baseball being played, I should say today and tonight, as we go into not just the evening, but also the afternoon as well. That'll do it for our Class B recap, as we are, we're donezo for that, and we get ready for the weekend. We also get ready for Tim McWilson, who's coming on the show very soon to talk about the Steel Valley Youth Football Camp. While we wait for him, we'll take a break and be back on Running Point, as always, brought to you by Greenwood Chevrolet in Austintown. Be back in a bit.
21 News delivers the news as it happens, using the latest technology from where it happens.
Live here outside the Mahoney County.
On air, online,
Wednesday afternoon weather update.
Very dangerous.
and on the 21 News social media platforms.
I'm on the road right now.
21 News, the Valley's only locally owned source for trusted news since 1953.
As fine as the eye can see, the finest hardwoods from the finest trees. Made for your home and within your means, Baird Brothers will help fulfill your dreams. Let life and light come shining through in quiet morns. And heavy traffic, too. Find your easy-to-afford fine hardwood floors and doors and more at BairdBrothers.com.
Every customer has a story, and at Greenwood Chevrolet, we are committed to making sure it ends with you in the right vehicle. I get to be part of somebody's adventure, whether it's buying a car for the first time, helping them get approved, or finding the perfect car for their budget. I'm proud that people trust me with their finances. They trust me to take care of them, and they trust me with their story. I'm Tracy, and I'm ready to go the extra mile for you, only at Greenwood Chevrolet.
And welcome back to Running Point on YSNLive.com, brought to you as always by Greenwood Chevrolet in Austintown. They go the extra mile for you. We try to do the same here on this show every single day, and we are going to go to a interview with Tim McWilson, who is putting together a really special youth football camp for the second year in a row, hosted by Austintown Fitch at Greenwood Chevrolet Field. Tim, thank you so much for taking the time to join us today.
Hey, yes, sir. Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
You got it. And before we talk about this year's second annual Steel Valley Youth Football Camp, I want to talk about kind of last year and having the first one, and what were some of the things that put this ball in motion and made you want to start this camp and made it so important to you to get it going.
Well, let me tell you, pre-COVID, I'm going to say around 2017, 2018, me and two of my best friends, Scott Ivy and Ellis Sullivan, do our normal guide trip, and we're in Florida. And I was just talking. Well, I was thinking about it already. You know, the good Lord put it on my mind to like try to give back to where I played my ball at. You know what I mean? And being a Youngstown kid. And so I shared with them back in like 2017, 2018. And then, we talked about it for another year. And then COVID hit. And then, of course, that put everything in a bag. So, things got going. Coach Parker, who I got mad respect for, mad love, man. He was down with it, and like I said, Scott Ivy and Ellis Sullivan really helped me a lot, man. And as far as getting things prepared, as far as like putting it out there, promoting a little bit, and so that's how I kind of got that started. Now, as far as how the camp went last year, it went well. I was nervous as all get up, all that good stuff, but we had a great time. Had a real good time.
You had a great turnout last year. It was so good that obviously this year was a no-brainer, putting together the second annual Steel Valley Youth Football Camp. When you looked at the numbers that you were able to get last year and the kids that were able to come and learn from the coaches that you were able to put together, what was that feeling like, seeing the success that last year's camp was able to bring?
Oh man, it was beautiful. I'll be honest. It was beautiful. Watching the young guys going up and down the field, being coached up, being taught, and the guys who did the coaching are former players that I coached back in high school and college and whatnot, and they did a great job. They were enthusiastic. They enjoyed it, teaching, coaching, and all that. So, just to answer the question, like as for me, just sitting back watching everything unfold and talking with Coach Parker and whatnot, man, this is a no-brainer. You know what I mean? Every year we're going to try to, Lord willing, keep coming back to Fitch High School and knocking it out.
You're a 1984 Fitch grad. Like you said, this is where you played your football as a kid. You could have had this camp in a lot of different places. What made Austintown Fitch home to you and made it so special that you wanted to make sure that you poured back into Youngstown football with this youth camp?
Oh, I'm a Falcon, man. I'm a Falcon at the end of the day. You know what I mean? Playing for Coach Hartman, who's like a dad to me. Coach Sapp, who was our O-line coach and D coordinator and all that. And, the bonds I made and the friendships I made, it was beautiful, man. And so, giving back to Fitch High School, who did so much for me, it's a no-brainer, no doubt. And, it'll be there every year. As long as I'm living, it'll be there every year, man, no doubt.
One of the really cool things last year and this year, not only are you going to have your guest coaches come and help out with the kids, but also Fitch players and Fitch coaching, members of the Fitch coaching staff will be there to help you out. How cool is that to see the current members of the Fitch football team pour into what could be the future of Austintown Fitch football?
Oh man, it's a family thing over there. You know what I mean? From what I remember back in the '80s, playing with with great guys like Steve Conover, Todd Powers, and Mark Zockel, and so on and so forth, and even to where Coach Parker has it. It's a family thing, man, and we all come together as one, and we work together, and we look out for each other. So it's all that, no doubt.
second annual camp is right around the corner. Why don't you tell us about some of the things that have grown in this year from last year and some of the things that you're looking to do better this year at this camp?
Say that one more time. I'm outside of my patio, man. Somebody was riding up the street with a motorcycle. I'm
You're all
sorry.
good. Like, we're going into the second annual youth camp in a couple of weeks, actually, a week from Saturday. So I'm wondering, what are some things that you're looking forward to this camp being like better and being grown in from last year's camp?
Well, you know what? Even though last year, it, I thought we did a pretty good job. I think even this year, with the preparation for everybody, everyone's being more prepared. The Zoom meeting that I had with all my players and coaches and whatnot, we feel like this year we're definitely more prepared and to teach the kids, show the kids, and also add a couple of little different twists to what we did last year.
Let's go through the people that are going to make this camp special. Who are the coaches and the people that are coming to help you out that are going to make this year's camp really work the way it's going to?
First of all, man, the guys who I coached at Capital, a few players, Dave Gronkowski, who was an All-American receiver at Capital, Evan Butler, who was all-conference running back in 2018, 2019, Mike Clark, DB, and Jason Elside was quarterback DB. Also, we got a couple young men from Pitt Panthers play that Pitt. I'm sorry. Devin Edwards played tight end, DN from 13 to 17 at Pitt. Tony Harper as well played tight end at Pitt. We got a few men from Ashland University, Terrell Hudson, Davion Barrow, and we got Beanie Wells, who's coming to speak to the group of kids. So, looking forward to it, man. And next year, Lord willing, we're going to try to make it bigger and better.
Yeah, Beanie Wells is obviously the big name that's drawing a lot of people to this event, and he's going to be there to speak to all the kids. And what was that like to be able to get him down to Austintown? Such an Ohio football legend, had a great career at Ohio State, went to the NFL. What was it like to be able to get him to come into the Youngstown area and speak to the youth of Youngstown football?
Well, me and Beanie became pretty good friends about right before he went to the draft. Coach Tressel was recruiting one of our players over at Ysn Academy, Ron Tanner, and I met Beanie through the recruitment, and so we became good friends throughout. We see each other, laugh a little bit, joke, and so last year, me and him was rapping and talking and whatnot, and so he was like, Mac, just tell me when. So as we was preparing for this camp, man, and I called him up, he said, man, I'm there. And so I'm very excited. I'm sure everyone else is. Beanie's a good friend, but he's a good guy who knows sports, knows life, and can definitely help and teach teach our young kids a lot.
That story is a reminder of how much of a brotherhood the sport of football is. I mean, whether you're playing with the player or whether you meet them coaching, it's just this brotherhood that you get that you can't really share with anybody else on a football field. What's it been like for you throughout your playing career, throughout your coaching career, to build in this football community and to be able to have so many brothers with you in the sport of football?
I tell you, from playing the game from Little League, playing with the Buckeye Elks in '75 to Fitch in '84 to YSU, I've met so many brothers in Christ and brothers in the football field, man. And our bond has just gotten stronger and stronger. We talk, we laugh, and even if we don't talk for about 2 or 3 months, man, we come together and it's like we didn't miss a beat. And so I've carried that over, like even in my coaching and coaching the young men that I've had the pleasure of coaching, from Devin Edwards, Ron Tanner, Isaiah P. Over at Columbus Eastmore, the young men over at Capital that I mentioned earlier, and and so many others, man. And it's like a bond. Like now, here I am, an old guy. So, like my players, I guess I'm like a dad or an uncle. You know what I mean? And so we get together, we laugh, have a little ice water and maybe some wings or something, and we get down like that, man. But it's a beautiful thing, man. It's a blessing from above, no doubt.
What are some Fitch football memories that you still are in your head from when you played for Fitch back in the 80s?
Beating Mooney in 1982 for the Still Valley Championship, man, down at YSU. Beating them. We haven't beaten them in years. So knocking off, John Klein and Devlin Culliver and them guys, man. Yeah, it's a beautiful thing, man. So beating Mooney will always be something that I will always, carry.
I don't know if kids in this day kind of understand like the monster that Mooney was back in the 70s, 80s, and 90s. So, I mean, beating them, anyone that gets to beat them probably is going to be a memory that they cherish for a long time. I know my dad was a Mooney grad back in the 70s, and he was on a freshman team that went undefeated and unscored upon. That just tells you how much they were just a powerhouse back in the day. But yeah, like you said, anytime you get to beat Mooney, you're going to remember that forever. Football has changed a little bit since the 80s, obviously it fits. When you watch this team, what are some things that are so special about watching what Coach Parker has done with the current Falcons that are on the roster?
Well, now you going back in the 80s, man, we ran the wing T. So, it was, ground and pound. Whereas Coach, and I'm not saying that we didn't have great athletes on that team. When I look at the guys I played with in the backfield, Greg Guerrero, Todd Powers, Tudor Lambie, Mike Ular, who went to Penn State, Randy Horvath, Jimmy Roberts, Jerry Bailey, Tim Schaefer. So them guys were like strong and had some good speed. Whereas this team right here, like what I see with Coach P, man, he got athletes all across the board and he got juice, man, so mad respect and mad love, you know what I mean? But, the game has changed where before clogged in to where now it's spread out and you want to get your guys out in space. Coach Hartman had us closed in a little bit, which is no knock on Coach. I love him. But, we make a cut and then we get in space, you know what I mean? So like that there. But no, but Coach Parker's doing a wonderful job, man. And I like it.
He has a lot of good running backs, and I'm sure it still makes your heart happy when he's able to, call the physical run play that goes right up the line and lets those running backs that are big and powerful that he has work. I'm sure it still makes your heart a little bit happy when you're able to see that come out of Austintown Fitch.
Yes, sir.
All right, so before we let you go, I want to give you a chance to kind of promote this camp, and if people out there listening still want to register for it, still want to get out there and be a part of it, what will they do? Give kind of the information about it, the time, the dates, and all that good stuff.
Okay, so of course the camp is July 8th, 2023 at Fitch High School Stadium, or Greenwood Stadium, I'm sorry. And 8 o'clock is registration if you come up that Saturday morning. You can go on to the website. I want to say it's at Fitch Football, but if you want, you can come and pay the day of. And if we run out of shirts, don't worry about it. Hey, just give us your name and address, and we will definitely mail you one. Now, as far as coming, man, look, I pray that the parents bring their kids out. We're going to have a good time, man. Great teaching, great coaching, great camaraderie. We feed you a little bit afterwards, the water and Gatorade to keep you hydrated. And at the end of the day, man, Beanie Wells. At the end of the day, be Wells, baby. Be Wells. And, I would always say, the Still Valley Youth Football Camp is something that I took upon because that's where I'm from. And that's the conference that, we played in throughout the whole Youngstown area, no matter where you're at. That's the Still Valley, and that's what we're known for, the Still Valley. And the guys who I have coaching and teaching, man, they're hard-nosed, They know the game. They play the game at a high level, whether it's Division 1, 2, or 3, and they're going to definitely help and teach your kid the proper way to play the game of football.
For just $20 per camp, where I think you'd be hard pressed to find a better value in a football camp
Amen.
than next Saturday at 8 a.m. in registration for the Steel Valley Youth Football Camp at Greenwood Field at Austintown Fitch. Tim, thank you so much for taking the time to come on and talk about it, talk about your days at Fitch as well. We appreciate it. We wish you the best of luck this year, and we look forward to seeing you host this camp for years to come.
Hey, thank you very much. Have a great day.
You too, buddy. Tim McWilson, he is running the Austintown Fitch hosted Steel Valley Youth Football Camp on July 8th at Greenwood Field. And the Fitch players are going to be there helping. They're going to have special guest coaches as well come and help you out. And then obviously Beanie Wells, the Ohio State running back football legend, will be there to speak at the end of the camp. And like I said, for $20, you get to go there from, morning until afternoon. It's a great long camp. Most of these camps are pretty pricey that you go to, and you're going to get a big headline speaker at the end. They can get kind of up there. So $20 is a pretty dang good value to go to Austintown Fitch for an afternoon of learning about football. I think it's grades 1 through 8 are the ages that you will be able to participate in this camp. So whether you're going into high school next year or you're going into Pee Wee trying to get your start in football, doesn't matter. Either way, they will take care of you. And we are so proud that Austintown Fitch is hosting a camp like that. We are proud to be the home of Austintown Fitch football this year. Ty Bartell will be the voice of the Falcons like he is every year. And we can't wait for Fitch football, but we also can't wait for this Steel Valley Youth Camp that Fitch is going to wonderfully host on Saturday, July 8th. Registration can be found online. You can just go to the Fitch football Facebook page, find a link there. But like Tim said, you can also show up the day of and get taken care of as well. So find all the information there on Facebook. There's a big flyer out there. Can't miss it. And we are so thankful that Tim was able to come on and talk with us a little bit about that camp today. So as we transition to the rest of the show, what I want to talk about last night. We had an all-star softball game at Youngstown State University softball complex. What a night it was for YSN. And we start these recaps for the all-star games always talking about just how special these nights are. I mean, it was our third YSN softball all-star game. We just had our third baseball all-star game. We've had 4 basketball all-star games now after this year. Just did our first volleyball all-star game this last season. We're going to do our second volleyball all-star game this year. So we love these nights because it's our opportunity to take the talent that we have on YSN and just give them a stress-free environment to go off and show off their talent. And for some, it's talent that everybody knows. Like, there are names that everybody understands. You are really good at softball. You deserve to be on this field. And it's great to see them go out and let loose a little bit. But it's also really fun. And I say this all the time. I said it on the broadcast. I said it in the days leading up to both All-Star games. It's always fun to see those diamonds in the rough type players, those players that maybe don't get all the publicity. Maybe their team's not going to state, their team's going to districts or something, but they are very, very good softball players. They get the opportunity to step on that softball field, whether they're from a small school or a big school. They get to go up against players that they don't go up against during the season, and they get to kind of prove that, hey, I belong here. I am on this field for a reason. I am an all-star, and they get to let everybody know who they are and what they're about. And that's one of the things I loved last night. I mean, the YSN MVP for the All-Star game was probably, not someone that was on many people's bingo cards. Josie Milliken comes in from West Branch, and she hits a 2-run home run, gets 2 hits. She only had 1 home run all season for West Branch, known much more for her ability to hit and get on base than her ability to hit the ball over the fence. Did lead West Branch in batting average, so she was their best hitter as far as, getting up and getting on. But not known for her power, but she comes up and hits a 2-run shot that really changed the momentum of the game. And, if you polled the people that were coming to watch, hey, who do you think are going to be the YSN, All-Star MVP? There are probably some names that the normal, casual area softball fan would kind of say, Melina Toth and Faith Porter and, those names that have been in the news, and everyone kind of knows they're from Hoban, they're from Canfield, they went to state. Julie Stakowicz, Kelly Zolik, Sam Suzanne, and they all did great, and they were all awesome to watch. But it's also fun to see the players that not as many people know about come up and have a fantastic game. Josie Milliken, just one of those players. I thought the whole county of Ashtabula, 4-4-0 in goal. I think Sam Torres had a big smile on his face all night because everyone really stepped up really, really, really well. Lexi Brown pitched her inning very well. Sophia Palillo had a big hit up the middle, a double to the wall. Actually, I think she stretched into a triple. You had Elin from Grand Valley have good at bats. You had obviously Sammy Speakman pitched well from Jefferson, which we all thought she would. Everyone that showed up from 440 from the 440 did amazing, and that's what I love to see because it was their first All-Star game for YSN, the Ashtabula County kids. First time that we've been able to cover them as a softball season, so first time, obviously, having them in an All-Star game. I thought people like Reagan Wynn from Sebring had a couple of good at-bats against pitching that they don't see during the season at all. I mean, the pitchers that she had to go up against were not from the MVAC Scarlet tier. They were high quality. Like, hey, I forget exactly what pitcher she had to go up, but every pitcher in both lineups were, a step up, and she had really good at-bats, which I was pleasantly impressed with. And then, you look at other people like Quinn Justum from Wyndham that came up and had a really good game. And I just love seeing it. I love seeing the players that are kind of under the radar come up and be able to have a great softball game. I told the story yesterday with Scotty about Mackenzie Kerr coming in from Waterloo, playing in the game that I was able to coach in the dugout, and being able to go up and get a RBI double against a pitcher that she hadn't gotten a hit off of in her high school career, and what kind of a moment that was for her. There's a lot of moments like that last night. There was a lot of moments like that in the baseball All-Star game too, of kids being able to prove to not just everyone in the crowd, but themselves that I belong on this field with these All-Stars, these names that I hear all the time on YSN, these names that go to state, these names that win regional championships, that go to regional championships. I belong on this field. I am here. I am talented enough to hang with these guys, these girls. And I think that can be such a confidence boost. I'm excited to see what these players bring into the next year, especially the ones that were making their first trip to the All-Star game, like the ones that could say, like, yeah, I went and I did the thing, right? Especially the younger ones, right? Obviously, the seniors won't have it next year at the high school. But, the younger ones that came in from a smaller school or a not as successful team and really shine bright. There was no one on that All-Star roster last night that I said, this stage is too big for them. Like, they were all playing out of their minds good. The talent on that field was incredible. And what I was telling people afterwards is what's really amazing is the talent on the field was awesome, but there's also a chunk of talent that just wasn't able to make it, which is a shame because it didn't even highlight the whole scope of the talent on YSN this year. It just proves what I've been saying all softball season long, that the softball in Northeast Ohio on most of the YSN family schools is just the best in the state overall. No other region in the state sent 3 teams to a state tournament. There's a reason for that. We are good at softball over here. And I think we proved it last night with not even 100% of our talent on the field. And it was probably one of the best played All-Star games that you could see in the whole state of Ohio. So I think we proved a lot to a lot of people last night about Northeast Ohio softball. And I could not be prouder of that as a softball fan, as a softball coach. A lot of people, why do you like softball so much? And last night was just like here's why right now. The softball we have in our area, it's been good, but now it's not good. It's great. It's been good for a while. It was good enough to get me hooked when I was in high school. When South Range was going to the regional finals and the regional and punching their ticket to state in 2016, back before I started with YSN, and I was just the South Range fanboy, right? Going to everything. The softball team there, Coach DeRose and Coach Farron. It was Farron the head coach back then when I was in high school, but it was still those two being a team. What that team meant to me is the reason that I got hooked on softball, and it was really special to me as a South Range alum and someone that grew up watching Coach DeRose coach and grew up watching his daughter play in the circle and her teammates and that team that she was on, giving me the passion for softball, that spark for softball. Being able to have Coach DeRose in the dugout finally for our All-Star game, that was a cool moment for me because that's where it all started. Like that's where softball started for me in South Range, going to South Range games, watching the girls who I went to school with kick absolute butt on the softball field, going to 2 straight, regional tournaments, going to a regional final, falling a little bit short in the regional final my junior year, going to the regional semis my senior year. That was it. I mean, and that was the first time that program had done it since 2001 when I was in school in 2010, 2011. Here we are in 2023, and that softball program is still one of the best in the region. They're always going to be a contender to get to regionals. They've gotten to state 3 times since 2016. And I know when I put the YSN hat on, I'm obviously an advocate for all the communities, and I'm there to support all the communities that love the communities and the softball teams that we get to cover. And I think that was evident on how many softball games I went to this year and how many different venues I was able to be at and how many communities I was really able to shine a light on this year. But at the end of the day, it's like there was a moment last night when I was talking to Coach DeRose before the game and looking at his coaching staff and looking at the uniforms of South Range, 3 players being on the field and Jamie Farron throwing out the first pitch. And I was just like, man, it is so cool to be a Raider, and I'm still a Raider through and through. And there's nothing that's going to change that. Despite, I love all the communities. I do. I'm not going to sit here and say that like I pick favorites, but at the end of the day, there was the part of me that grew up in South Range was tickled last night in the pregame, rolling on the field, talking to Coach DeRose and looking at all the burgundy and gold that was in that dugout, coaching staff and players. And it was kind of a full circle moment because I knew I grew up watching this softball team, and kind of the buds of what we see it now was when I grew up. I grew up watching the seeds that were planted for how successful this softball team is now. And it was so cool to see it so well represented last night with a coaching staff there, of course, and then 4 players, 4 All-Stars. And then we even gave the co-freshman of the year to another South Range player in Anna A, who was in attendance. So it was one of those nights for me personally where I was just a little bit nostalgic and proud to be a South Range alum. And it was cool. And I want to thank Coach DeRose for not just coming to the All-Star game, but everything that he has meant to my softball fanhood. Because I remember when I went to games in high school and, the coaching staff was made like, oh man, I remember it was one of the coolest moments. I was sitting in class my senior year, and they went to the Wendy's Invitational as a softball team, which is one of the tournaments I just couldn't swing going to. It was up in Ashland, still going on now. I think Poland went to it this year, so it's still a thing down there in Ashland where a lot of the really, really good teams go to in the state. It's a great tournament in the state of Ohio. They went down there. I couldn't go. I was bummed, and I'm sitting there in class in homeroom, and I think if it was the right time, so it probably actually Coach Foster's home government class because he took over about I think in maybe March of my senior year when my original government teacher retired in the middle of the school year. But so I'm sitting in class and Coach Farron walks in with a Wendy's tournament shirt, and the care they took to say we're going to get Anthony a shirt. We're going to make sure that Anthony gets a shirt because he couldn't come this weekend. And it's little things like that that kind of spark your passion for softball. And it's that's one of the moments I remembered last night watching South Range in the dugout. I was like, man, I remember when I was sitting in government and kind of bummed that I couldn't go watch my friends compete against a lot of really good teams in the Wendy's tournament. And all of a sudden here comes Mr. Farron into the classroom with a shirt from the Wendy's tournament. And I still had that shirt. And I'll always have that shirt. I'll always have those memories. And it was really cool to like I said, to see where the Raiders program is now. It was cool to go there at Firestone Stadium and call that game with DJ in the state semifinals. It was cool to call the 2019 state tournament run. And I remember being at the 2016 and how exciting that was to just watch that team make their first trip to state. So that was awesome. But now I want to talk about the other side too, because Coach Ward, our 2023 YSN Coach of the Year, also volunteered his time to make sure that every player on that side of the field had the best experience possible. And I was so, while I was talking to the other dugout, Coach Ward was doing their infield, and he was running it like a well-oiled machine, like he'd been coaching those girls all season long. It was so cool to see, obviously, the care and the time that he put into making sure it was organized chaos almost. He had a timeline set where I want to start warm-ups in 8 minutes. He was very methodical about the time he put into making sure everything kind of went off without a hitch. And yes, he definitely had fun with it. And you could see that clearly by the dugouts that he was able to get those girls to kind of embrace his mentality of having fun. But it was also cool to see kind of the time that both these coaches really put into this All-Star game and the excitement they had leading up to it. I had like 5 or 6 text messages throughout the week that were just, hey, look at this. And it was just like a picture of like almost, I would describe it as Coach Ward described it as a war room, which I thought was perfect because it was like a mapped out idea of who would play where and when they would play it. And I was like, man, they're making this so cool. And I remember like when I coached the All-Star game, I did all that and I was like, man, you're taking this too seriously. But here are the coaches that are doing this for a living, and they loved it so much. They loved the idea of coaching an All-Star game so much that they put in volunteer time to just kind of make sure they were organized, make sure they were good to go, make sure they had a good game plan set. They wanted to win, which I thought was really cool too. I mean, I said it with Scotty yesterday. You can't turn off the competitiveness in these games, especially in the sport like softball and baseball, where you can't really water it down too much. You can't go out there and just lazily play softball and baseball. You have to go and you have to do it. Like you have to hit against pitchers that are throwing 60 miles an hour still. You have to do all the things. You have to bring your talent with you. For basketball, it's kind of a pickup game. There's a way to water down basketball a little bit to make it a fun, flashy basketball game. But with softball and baseball, it just doesn't work. You can't water down the sport. So it's hard it's impossible actually to turn off those competitive juices because you are playing a legitimate baseball and softball game. So to see the coaches buy into that too and like want to win and drive to win and put together a game plan, like a strategy to try to win, was really cool. And you saw the strategies change a little bit. I thought that was fun. I talked about it on the broadcast when I first saw the different strategies come up, and I was like, okay, Coach DeRose is starting off with one pitcher per inning. Boom, 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 boom. And Coach Ward, on the other hand, said, okay, I'm going to set off the tone, and I'm going to throw Melina Toth 2 innings, and I'm going to set the tone there. My quote-unquote ace is going to throw first 2. And we didn't see her in the circle again after that. But Coach DeRose threw Katie McDonald 1 inning, kept in the 1 run. And then we saw later in the game in that what I thought was a really important 8th inning, because you have about a 4 or 5 run lead. If they score a couple in the 8th, then that makes the 9th inning a lot less stressful on the offense. So in the 8th inning, here comes Coach DeRose. He throws Katie McDonald again, who we saw in the 1st inning. So we see Katie McDonald come back out there and shut down the 8th inning and make it a less stressful opportunity for Rachel Strohmeyer from Liberty, who I was super impressed with coming into a high-stress situation in the 9th. Couple runners got on. Obviously, that inside the park home run happened with a ball that got thrown away from first base and went into the corner in right field. Caitlin Mitchell runs all the way around the base pass. It would have been really easy for a pitcher to hit the panic button after that. But I really thought Rachel Strohmeyer did a really good job from Liberty, not hitting the panic button, calming down, realizing, hey, this is an all-star game. I'm allowed to go out there and just be aggressive, and she got out of that inning without any more damage, which I thought was super, super impressive. I was really, really impressed with her coming in and closing that game for Coach DeRose and Team Stripes. But what was I even talking about before I talked about Rachel Strohmeyer? Oh, the strategy, right. And how Coach DeRose handled the pitching strategy. And I think also the battery mix. He mixed and matched the batteries a little bit, which I liked. I mean, he had Katie McDonald throwing to Sydney Conti in the first, and then he came back and threw her with Maddie Weimer from Boardman in the eighth, and he kind of mixed and matched that, and he said, well, actually, Weimer actually played really good as a catcher, so I think he was saying, okay, we need someone who's not going to let things get by her. Maybe he had a little evaluation throughout the game, like he saw all his catchers by then and said, who's kind of really feeling it tonight, and Maddie already made a good catch on a bunt that was popped up in the air to right in front of home plate. So maybe he was just feeling, hey, I'm gonna put my best defensive catcher in there. He was a little bit more loose with things, and Coach Ward was 2 for Toth, and then here we go. We're just gonna go down the line of pitchers, and that worked for him to set the tone for sure. 5-0 lead, and Coach Ward and Team Stars really did set the tone. But in the end of the day, it was Coach DeRose and his team that put together a mighty comeback. I think after being down 5-0, eventually at some point was on an 11-1 run, 112-8, and what a game it was at YSU for the YSN All-Star Game, which put a nice little bow on the high school softball season for YSN's coverage, and we can't wait to get right back to it next year. I started to count down, not really, but I want to have one of those rings on the wall that goes days until next softball season, because as you can tell by my backdrop and my props, like softball's my go-to, my day one, my OG. So I'm counting down the days until next March, where we start softball season up again. But softball in its entirety is not done on YSN. I want to close the show by reminding you that we go from the big All-Stars on the big stage at YSU to the future All-Stars in high school tonight, as Little League District 2 softball continues on YSN tonight. We will have the 10U game at 6 o'clock. Chris Colucci will be down there at the Field of Dreams to call the 10U game, and I will be down there at the Field of Dreams to call the 12U games. Let's get the schedule up and tell you who's playing when in these District 2 Little League tournament games tonight. Let's start with the 10U game that Chris Colucci will be calling tonight. It will be Austintown against Struthers tonight. Last night, Austintown got the win 3-1 over Poland, so they'll try to bounce and get another win tonight over Struthers. Tomorrow night, South Range is going to play Boardman. That game was supposed to happen last night as well, but because of the air quality, South Range and Boardman had to move that game to tomorrow. So one game tonight, one game tomorrow. And then they're actually going to have now 3 games on Sunday. So a little bit of a schedule adjustment to the Little League tournament. If you are not updated, go to boardmanbaseball.com, find the Little League tournament page, and go to the 10U schedule for an update on the whole list of games that is happening, because the 10U got affected a little bit by the air quality last night. Now it adjusted again to where there are 3 Sunday morning games for the 10U softball teams. Tonight in the 12U, it's going to be first Canfield versus Howland in an elimination game at 6 o'clock. Both Canfield and Howland fell last night. Howland lost in a heartbreaker walk-off victory to Boardman 2-1, and Canfield lost to Austintown 10-0. So Canfield versus Howland at 6 o'clock. And then the nightcap will be the winner of last night, Boardman, taking on Poland, who got the bye in the first round of the tournament. So Boardman versus Poland for a chance to go and play Austintown Fitch on Friday night? Austintown's 10U team, 12U team. Yeah, they would play Friday. So the winner between Boardman and Poland will play to Friday night at 8. And the loser will play the winner of Canfield versus Howland at 6 on Friday, which is tomorrow. So that's what the future schedule looks like for Little League softball. I will be down there for 12U, and Chris Colucci will be down there for 10U tonight and tomorrow. And that'll do it for today's episode of Running Point, actually. That's going to do it. I want to thank you guys so much for tuning in like we always do. I want to remind you that tomorrow there will be no Running Point. I will be not here tomorrow. I'm going to be in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania for the Steel Valley Storm tournament. They're playing. My travel team is playing in the Battle of the Berg, which is in Cranberry, PA. So I'll be down there, and I'm going to shoot back in town at night for the Little League softball. But I will be in the afternoon in Cranberry, PA, coaching travel ball with the Steel Valley Storm. So no show tomorrow. We'll be back on Monday with a full recap of the weekend of Little League baseball, Little League softball, I should say. And we'll also have a recap of all the stuff that happened at Scene. And a lot more fun next week on Running Point, brought to you as always by Greenwood Chevrolet in Austintown. Thank you so much